Hey gang, how's it going? Welcome back to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to go over the steps on how to paint a really cute German Shepherd. And this particular video series was prompted from one of my more popular classes at my studio, which is Paint Your Pet. But I would say 100% of my students are either first-time painters or beginner painters, but everybody is new to the process. So again, that's why I created this video, because I do want you painting at home. I want you getting more comfortable with the tools and the supplies and just getting more comfortable with the process. And the only way that's going to happen is through practice. So as you go through this process today, I don't want you taking yourself too seriously. I want you to paint a little bit faster than you're comfortable with. Color outside the lines, paint outside the lines, maybe swap out colors. This is your space to just practice and get more comfortable with your tools. That's really all I want this to be. And as you go through the process, you're going to realize that you do get more comfortable. So keep going, keep painting. So in this video, what you're going to see in the links below is what I call a kit. And the kit is the exact supplies and exact colors that you need to recreate the painting that I'm going to teach in this video. Check out the kit, download or acquire the parts of the kit that you need. If you need all of it, if you just need a portion of it, grab what you need. But the kit is there to just make it easier for you to grab the supplies that you need to do this video. One of the other things that you're going to see on here is what we call a traceable. And a traceable is a way to get that first initial image on your canvas or your panel. And I do have another video, the link should pop up here, on how to transfer your traceable, so check that out. With acquiring those traceables, you've got a few options. If you are one of my patron supporters, you get access to the traceables for free with your monthly subscription. If you're not one of my patron supporters and you want to just purchase just one of the traceables, there is a link in the description below. Download that link, download the traceable and print it off. You can use it as many times as you want. Feel free. If you don't want to go with the traceables at all, if you pause the video at a specific time frame, you can look at the video and draw what you see and transfer and get your initial image on that way. So few different options to get that first step of your image on your canvas or your panel. So utilize those. If you have any questions, send me a comment below and I'll get back to those and help out as I can. But again, this painting or this video was created for you to just practice and have fun and relax and get more comfortable with your supplies. So I do hope you enjoy the process of painting this really cute German Shepherd, and I look forward to what you guys paint and create. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's get started painting. So go over to where you have your setup and make sure your favorite music is turned on and turn it up loud if you can. And here are the colors that we're going to be using, but like always, feel free to switch out your colors and make sure you take your progress photos. It will be worth it later on for you doing that. So once you have your traceable transferred to your surface, your canvas or your panel, we're going to take black paint and outline those lines again. And again, by doing this, it's good practice. Don't stress if some of your brush strokes are thicker or skinnier than other ones. With a lot of these little fur marks or these little dash marks, you're going to get practice making smaller brush strokes with this. So again, try starting at the end of the line and moving left, maybe start at the other side of the line and move the other direction. Try a few different ways of applying the paint with the brush, again, just to get your comfort level with this. If you find that you are holding your breath right now, make sure you take a deep breath. If you're not sure if you were holding your breath, still just take a deep breath anyway. A lot of my beginner students and first timers tend to hold their breath when they paint. And one of the little comic relief spots in my class is when I get to say just that. Make sure you breathe. Alright, so as we're doing the eyes of this little German Shepherd, you will notice that I fill in the pupil. And the pupil is going to be the darker kind of center portion of the eyes. On the Traceable, it does show where it's filled in, so you can reference that. But go ahead and fill in your pupil, and if you happen to go over that white little circle that's the catch light, don't stress about that. You can put it back on at the end of the painting. So again, as you're going through this process, this is just a painting and process to get you more comfortable with your tools, with mixing the paint, with your brush, with applying the paint. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable you get. And this is kind of like a giant coloring book, really. It's like adult coloring, but just with paint. So again, just like you may kind of lose yourself in the adult coloring books, lose yourself in this process. So pause the video and take your progress picture. And then we're going to be moving into painting our background. And for the background, you can choose any color that you like. Today I'll be using a nice light aqua blue. And I did use a lot of white with a little bit of that aqua color or turquoise color mixed in. And I did allow my black paint of my lines to dry before I moved into my background. If you're extremely eager, which I hope you are, to kind of accomplish this painting and you moved right into painting your background, just kind of be cautious of where your black paint is still wet when you're bringing this lighter color next to it. If you happen to get some of that black paint in your background, just take a paper towel and wipe it off and apply your background color again. And again, with all these tiny little first strokes, don't feel like you have to get right in between every single line. If you paint over the black with your background color, totally okay. We're going to be putting the fur colors on top of this again. So basically, don't stress about anything today. I want you to pretend like you are an adult kindergartner. And the only adult part makes it is if you are at home and you are of age and you have an adult beverage, that does kind of help you relax. But otherwise, I do want you to just think of yourself as a 5-year-old today. And every 5-year-old is an awesome painter. They don't doubt themselves. They just paint and create and go, look at what I did. That's all I want you to do today. I want you to be done with the painting and go, oh, look what I did today. Not bad. And if you can do that once a week, if you could do it every day, that's awesome. But if you can find a regular habit of having a creative outlet, your entire life will be better off for it, because it is nice to just have a space that you can relax and paint and just kind of let your day slip away and get lost in the movement of your brush on the canvas. It's very therapeutic. So as I'm applying the background on this, you'll notice that some places are a little bit darker, some are a little bit lighter. So you can add different shades on top of your other colors here. And I will be going in with more of teal, more of that turquoise, and painting right on top of my lighter shade. And you'll notice that as you put that new shade on top of another, as you move your brush, the two blend together. And that is what we call a wet on wet blending method. So feel free to just kind of play with that. The more you move your brush, the more the two colors blend together. If you move your brush a lot and you lose that color that you liked a minute ago, just repeat the process. This is probably one of the more therapeutic aspects of just moving wet paint into wet paint about this process. All right. And again, take a few more deep breaths. We're going to be putting some darker paint here on the edges, and I'm still using that medium or that small flat brush and just kind of bringing in the darker edges so it's almost kind of radiating out from our German Shepherd. If you feel like finger painting a little bit to blend your colors, that's again just another therapeutic aspect. And it is a water-based media, so it will wash off your fingers just with a little bit of soap and water. Alright, so you're going to go ahead and pause the video, take your progress picture, anything you want to do to your background, you want to do it now, and then we're going to be moving into some of the colors of our fur. So right now, because we do have a kind of a dark German Shepherd, we're going to be using the small flat brush. I'm actually just using straight black paint. We're going to be putting some of our darker shadows in first, and then we'll be backtracking to a little bit lighter shades from there. So even though I'm using the small flat brush, I will be using it kind of sideways, the skinnier version of the brush, and just making little dash marks. And as you make your dash marks today, as we do all this painting with little dash marks, I want you to imagine that each brush stroke is like a strand of fur on this dog. So I want you to kind of move your brush in the direction that the fur would be going. It's kind of a good mental activity to keep your brain busy while you're painting so you don't overanalyze it, but it also helps kind of build the fluff and the layers of the fur that are going into there by having the brush strokes move and mimic the direction of the fur. So again, that's using little dash marks or even little dots, but we'll be using mainly dash marks today, moving in the direction of this German Shepherd's fur. Now, I am in the beginning stages of making these YouTube videos, and I realize that my hand is in the way on a good amount of the videos, the first couple videos. So I'm going to encourage you to utilize the pause sections of these first couple of videos and pause them and look at the shape of the color I just applied and try to mimic that on your canvas or on your paper. And if you make the shape bigger or smaller than actually I have on here, don't stress about that. Trust your instincts as we're moving along, and if you're inclined to make a space larger, go right ahead and give that a try. But this is just kind of a guideline to get you to a relatively recognizable painting at the end of the session. So again, trust your instincts as we paint, get experimentational, just kind of have fun, and again, get lost in the process. This is just a guide. All right, so pause the video, take your progress picture, and take a look at where that particular color was laid. Now we're going to take a little bit of black with a little bit of our burnt umber. Your correction, we're going to leave some of that black on our paintbrush, and we're going to grab some of that burnt umber. And still going for the dark spaces, and it may be kind of hard to tell where this burnt umber and the black separate. But as you get more practice and more experience, you'll start to recognize it. And again, I'm using that brush sideways and moving my brush in the direction that the fur would be going. And still creating some of the dark spaces on this German Shepherd. And one of the cool things that you're going to notice with your progress pictures, and as we go through this process, that we interpret the painting different as we start chiseling away and taking away that white space of the canvas. So that's one of the reasons why your progress pictures are so important. Because right now it may feel kind of odd, doesn't quite look like a German Shepherd yet, but as you'll notice with your pictures and as we get to the end of the painting, it looks entirely different and it feels better at the end of the painting when we've filled up that canvas space. So even if it feels awkward, just keep painting. And make sure you're breathing. Good spot, good point to check in and see if you're breathing deep enough and relaxing. Maybe stressful a little bit the first couple times that you paint, but that's just because you don't quite know what to expect. So be kind to yourself as you're going through this process, especially if this is your first time painting. Just the fact that you're attempting this at home nonetheless, that's, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That takes a lot of courage to be doing this at home. So be proud of yourself and kind to yourself as you're going through these stages. All right, so again, just still adding all these great layers into our German Shepherd, chiseling away those white spaces of the canvas and building kind of some dynamic volume in the fur. And if you're overlapping these black lines, totally okay. We're actually not going to be doing the black lines at the end of the painting like we have in some other paintings. This will be a bit more of a painterly style rather than a cartoon style German Shepherd. All right, so pause the video, take your progress picture, and we're going to keep moving in with the burnt umber, but we're going to go a little bit lighter this time. You can keep with the same brush and you don't actually have to wash it out because we're staying in the same hue or the same color family. So we're adding a little bit of white to our burnt umber, and we're just going for a lighter but kind of medium shade of our burnt umber. And I'm still using that middle size flat brush or small flat brush, depending on the size of your canvas, and holding it sideways, and again moving the brush in the direction that the fur is going. So there's little dash marks that I'm making, and I'm overlapping these dash marks as I create these shapes. And what you're going to notice as you continue to paint with me, as you pause the video in certain sections, you're training your eye to look at these different shapes or these different colors and then apply it to your canvas. So you're actually exercising your brain quite a bit right now as you're doing this, and it's very healthy to exercise your brain in this manner, especially compared to staring at the computer screens all day and just seeing the black and white of spreadsheets or things that we view on the web that may not be as saturated with colors or kind of just blah on the eyes. So again, you're just training your eye to look at things in a new manner. And with these videos, all I want you to do is just get more practice. This is not about being perfect. Like I said, I encourage you to get a little sloppy with these, paint a little faster than you're comfortable with, take yourself out of your comfort zone so that way you can keep learning and growing and have more fun as you paint. If you have a German Shepherd that you know, that was a family pet, that's a current pet of yours, I want you to think about them as you paint this painting. It is quite amazing when we do think of something specific while we paint, how the paint kind of holds those emotions, holds that feeling, and kind of helps us along because we do have an emotional connection that we're making towards it now. And with the holidays coming up, just to let you know, these do make great gifts or even birthdays for year-round stuff, because it does seem like in this day and age there's a holiday every other week. So there's always a reason to paint or always a reason to give the gift of art. So again, we're still using that medium burnt umber and filling in some of the lighter shades on our German Shepherd. We haven't moved into the tan shades yet. And pretty nice how it is coming to life, even with 3 shades on here. All right, so we're gonna pause the video, take your progress picture, and take a look at where these shades were added and what you need to apply to your canvas. All right, so now we're gonna go even lighter, very, very light burnt umber. So that same pile that you've been mixing in, we're gonna add a little bit more white. And again, you may notice that you make the color on your plate, but when you apply it to your canvas, it might not be light enough. So feel free to adjust. We do kind of interpret colors based on the color that's next to it and based on what our canvas has compared to where our plate is, we will interpret the colors a little bit differently. So we are taking this light burnt umber and applying it to quite a few areas. And again, it's kind of nice to see with just those 3 shades how this is starting to take shape. And you do have to keep in mind that you are magicians as you paint. You are creating the illusion of a 3D object on a flat 2D surface. All right, so you're going to take another progress picture here and take a look at where that light burnt umber was added. And then we're going to move on to our next color. All right, so now we're moving into our tan. So we're taking just the direct or the straight raw sienna, still using that small flat brush, and still moving your brush in the direction of the fur. So again, each brush stroke is like a strand of fur and moving in the direction of the fur. Nice. So we're going to be adding a good amount of color here between the raw sienna and one more lighter shade once we're done with this one. But we'll be filling in the remaining space of our canvas with these warmer brown shades. And you'll even notice where I place this raw sienna on top of some of the burnt umber. And just again, take note of how it looks different compared to being placed right on top of the white canvas. Again, that's some color theory of how we interpret a color, the exact same color, differently when it's next to different colors. All right, you're doing a good job. It is coming along nicely. Be kind to yourself as we go through this process. If you find that any of your muscles are tense, all right, so now we're going to start a new color. We're going to take some umber and some raw sienna, kind of an in-between color. I need the forehead to be a little bit darker. So again, using that slightly darker shade, the raw sienna and the burnt umber, we're filling in some of the forehead and the ear and still moving the brush in the direction of the fur. Once we get all our colors on here, we will actually be going back to some of our prior shades and applying them on top of these. We are getting to what we call the underpainting, where all the canvas space is filled in with various shades of color, or various shades. All right, around the face, they may not be dash marks, but they could be little dots. Again, just kind of overlapping. It's almost like a patchwork quilt, all these different little sections and colors. If you need to, feel free to step out of your chair, go to the edge of the room, look at this from a distance, get a different perspective, pause the video, take a progress picture, study the picture on your cell phone. Again, just get a different perspective. All right, so now we're taking some of our raw sienna, we're adding some white to it. We're going a little bit lighter. Did add a touch of that light umber into it just to kind of keep with the shades that we have on our palette. And again, moving the brush in the direction of the fur, especially this section, it kind of radiates out from the head. So keeping with those kind of long, skinny, slightly diagonal brush strokes. All right, pretty amazing how it's coming along as we get rid of more and more of that white canvas space. And then, like I said earlier, we will be adding some other colors on top of this. All right, a little German Shepherd's coming along very nicely. So again, pause the video, take your progress picture, look and see where those particular colors were added to the canvas, and then add them to yours. Again, we're going a little bit lighter. I want a bit more contrast here at the muzzle, so I added more white to our mixture of our super light raw sienna. And now I'm kind of placing it on top of the same color that we were using a moment ago. And again, placing wet paint on top of wet paint, you will notice that it blends. And I do want this to go lighter, so I want you to kind of place that lighter color on there, and then don't move your brush as much, because I do want there to still be kind of this lighter distinction and not blend away into the other color. Nice job. All right, progress picture again. All right, so going back to the burnt umber, we're going to finish up the nose. I'm going to kind of fill in a little bit more of the white canvas space that's there. And I am using the small pointy brush now, so that way I can get into a smaller little detailed area. And again, when we get to that pause point, just pause the video and observe the shapes and the placement of the color we're adding right now. You're doing a good job. Smile at yourself. It is quite courageous to be painting at home. You're doing a great job. All right, pause the video. Another progress picture before we add the color of the eyes in. And again, you can change the color of your dog's eyes. I'll be using raw sienna here and small pointy brush. Filling in the eye space, the eye color space, not the pupil. If you do happen to paint on top of the black or even that little white catch light, do not stress. Take a deep breath and keep painting. All right, you've made it this far. Again, this is what we call the underpainting. We have all the canvas space filled in. Really, the hardest part of the painting is complete. All right, so I'm actually just going through and filling up a few places that I can see some of the white of the canvas. So if you need to do that on yours, just grab the appropriate color and fill in the space if you still see the texture of the canvas. And then take your progress picture before we move into the next step. So we're still using the small pointy brush, and we're going to start putting some highlights and different shades on top of what we've already done. So here I'm going for a light raw sienna, very light, more white than raw sienna. And like I said, small pointy brush. We're still keeping with those kind of little dash marks or the brush moving in the direction of the fur, but they're going to be much smaller brush strokes with this brush. So again, mind your pressure and utilize the pause section of this video. So that way you can see where I'm placing these lighter colors. If you have rather thick paint, real thick viscosity, and it's hard to make some of these small lines, you can add a little bit of water to your brush. You never want your brush dripping wet with water, and you never want more than 30% water added to your paint. But you can add a little bit of water to increase the viscosity. Well, actually, yeah, to increase your flow. I think if you increase your viscosity, it just gets thicker, so we want to actually do the opposite. If you have any matte medium or slow dry extender or anything that came with the brand or something that you picked up with your brand of paint, feel free to add that in there. It just gives a little bit more flow and makes it easier to do some of these smaller brush strokes. If you don't have any, just use water. Alright, so I am doing some details around the eyes. Like I said, I am getting better and not having my hand in the way for some of these details. But again, feel free to pause the video. Zoom in closer if you can, just to kind of see where these colors were added. A few of my next videos I added, or just now editing, I do have a second camera angle coming in, and it helps so you can see the pressure of my brush. So just like you, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and learning new things and evolving and getting better at my process the more that I practice it and the more that I do it. And again, feel free to get out of your chair, walk to the end of your room, walk out of the room and come back in, take a little bit of a break. Look at your painting from the distance, because really art and a lot of things in life are meant to be viewed from about 10 to 20 feet away, and they look entirely different from that distance than they do while we're creating it or painting it and we're literally 2 feet or less in front of it. So again, get out of your chair, step back for perspective. And just keep in mind that everything in life, people, places, artwork, things, cities, they all look better from a distance. So keep that in mind and don't be upset when you like your painting from that distance. Alright, so still adding some of that light raw sienna on top of some other areas. And this is another cool thing about color theory. You realize that we have the same color that we've been applying, but based on where we're applying it on the fur, it looks a little bit different. Some places it looks a little bit brighter when it's next to the dark fur, and maybe not so bright when it's placed on the light fur. Again, that's just color theory that you get to witness while you paint this today. All right, pause the video, take your progress picture, and take a look at where all those light colors were added. We're going to be moving into our next color. Still with the small pointy brush. Do clean your brush out really good. We're going to go back to the burnt umber and going back in and kind of chiseling away some of those details. So I am cleaning up a little bit around the eyes. And again, we'll be doing those small brush strokes in the direction of the fur. We'll be overlapping these on some of the other colors we've already done. And again, feel free to adjust. If you need to add a little bit of black to your burnt umber to go a little bit darker, feel free to do that. Trust your instincts. If you're inclined to do it, give it a try. It's just paint. All right, even as we're doing this, if you need to pause the video at small little increments when my hand is out of the way or over at the plate, feel free to do that. You're kind of getting the gist of how I'm trying to film these and go step by step as far as each color that we're using. Adjust as you need to as you're learning this as well. And again, don't take yourself too seriously. This is fun. Laugh, smile at yourself. Again, I applaud you that you're actually sitting down and doing this. I watch too many people talk themselves out of this process. All right, and pretty cool how just adding some of these darker shades on top of some lighter shades or some tan shades, how it's starting to chisel away some of these features. And even at places in here, feel free to stop and take a progress picture. Study it on your phone for a little bit, because when you look at your phone, the picture on your phone, it's the same thing as looking at it from 20 feet away without getting out of your chair. So again, another tool to look in a different perspective at your artwork. So keep in mind, painting is never ever about being picture perfect or photorealistic, but learning to look at things that you look at every day in a slightly different manner. And believe it or not, this was a blank white canvas, and you are looking at it in an entirely different manner right now, in probably a rather short amount of time. And as we're coming into some of the final details of this painting, if you feel like one of the colors that we're using, maybe you need to put some of that color in a section that I didn't touch or didn't put on my canvas, don't worry about that. Again, trust your instincts, and if you're inclined to try some of that color in another area, go ahead and give it a try. Like I said, this is just a tool to help you along the process to take out some of those difficult steps. And hopefully for the time frame that you've been painting this, you have been so focused on your canvas that you actually did forget about the world out there, or forget about drama or some stresses that you have in your life. Painting is my wonderful escape from reality and life. I actually can't imagine where my life would be if I didn't have it. So again, I'm so grateful that you joined me today and are painting, or at least exploring your creative opportunities or options. All right, so we're coming up to a place you're going to pause your video, take a look at where all that dark color was added, that burnt umber, and again, take your time, pause the video and kind of examine where that was added. So now we're going to go into white, and we're going to put some more intense highlights. If you need to redo your catch light, go ahead and do that. Make sure that white dot overlaps that black of that pupil and that raw sienna of that eye color. Catch light is quite important, so you don't want to skip this step. And then we're going to put a few little highlights around the eyes, and that increases the contrast, increases the intensity. So as you're doing these little brush strokes, you do want to use very light pressure. You want to kind of use the last 2 millimeters of your brush and practice on your tablecloth, practice on the napkin if you need to. Breathe before you make some of these tiny little dots, but you will get more comfortable with these small little dots the more that you paint, the more that you practice. Painting is a lot like handwriting. Everybody has their own style, their own method, and it's not necessarily to be duplicated or replicated. Alright, so going back into some black paint, going back to some eyeliner on this German Shepherd. And again, just kind of be mindful of the pressure as you're doing some of these tiny little dots at the end of your painting session. If you need to steady your hand, you can kind of put your pinky out and use that as your pivot point, or rest your forearm against the edge of the table. Alright, take a progress picture, and if you need to zoom in a little bit closer to see where those were added, feel free to do that. Alright, so I still want to make the forehead a little bit darker, so I'm going back to the burnt umber and just doing tiny little brush strokes, still in the direction of the fur, and I'm not overlapping these brush strokes as much because I do want some of these underneath colors to still kind of shine through. And this is also going to help increase kind of the texture and the contrast on our German Shepherd's fur. And trust your instincts. Again, if you want to break up a space that I haven't added this color to, feel free to do that. Employ the same brush strokes that we're doing here to the section that you would like to touch up. And if you end up painting it and you don't like it, let it dry and go back to the original color and paint right on top of it. You're doing a great job. All of these paintings turn out with such personality, such character, just like the millions of dogs that are out there, that they each have their own personality. Just so do our paintings. And you could actually paint the same image every day for a year, and that painting's going to be different every day because you're a different person each day. So as you paint, still be kind to yourself as you go through the process. Some days are good, some days not so good, but hopefully you have enough days to where it's relaxing enough that you are encouraged to continue this process. It is so good for your stress level and your relaxation to just have something creative to do. And it's a nice bit of satisfaction that you see in yourself when you see your growth through your progress pictures, or being able to paint something that you couldn't paint a year ago, or you had no idea how to paint a couple years ago, or even a month ago. All right, great job. You should be very proud of yourself. I'm proud of you for just showing up. Hey gang, I hope your German Shepherds turned out super cute. Thank you so much for joining me and going through the process of painting. I do hope that you are finding a nice groove, a nice balance, and realizing how relaxing and rewarding the process is. As you're uploading your images to social media, please tag me in those videos so that way I can see what you create, and tag me at PaintwithLovejoy. Again, I love just seeing what you guys create here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. Check out the other videos in this series. Get more practice, get more comfortable. So, question of the day. What did you think about the brush strokes of creating the fur for this German Shepherd? Leave your comments below. Also leave a comment on things that you want me to produce in the future, different animal breeds, different wildlife out there. Let me know and I will start creating those for you. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I'm glad you're creating with me. I look forward to your evolution and process that you go through. And I'm honored that I get to be one of the ones that guide you along that process. So again, thanks for your time. Happy creating and have a beautiful day. Cheers. My studio. Plain. I really wish they would go reverse. All right, plain. Wait for that one. Question of the day. Totally lost my train of thought. So question